Johnny, what the hell's going on? We're in space.
This is amazing, Tim.
It's incredible.
How did we get here?
I don't know. But Johnny, I'm gonna bring us back.
Okay.
Let's go to a beachy area.
All right.
So we can talk foils. This video is all about Armstrong's front foils. We're gonna walk you through the different disciplines, different forms of foiling, and we're gonna tell you which foil is the best for the different discipline. Now keep in mind, this is our perspective. There are different riding preferences, on fronts, and there's also different conditions, and it really matters. And so I'll talk about some of those conditions especially for wing foil, kite foil, that type of thing. You ready for this?
I'm ready, Tim.
Okay.
Let's do it.
We're gonna start with the S1 products from Armstrong. Now S1 is the basic beginner product lineup, and that one typically we don't overthink it too much. We're gonna listen so that we understand what your background is to see if you're somebody who might be able to bypass the S1 series and the aluminum mast. How do you say that?
Aluminium.
Aluminium.
In space, it's aluminium.
In space it is. But we might put you past that straight into the carbon mast. For the S1 riders, typically that sweet spot is gonna be right around the middle of the line, but we'll match that to your weight and to your riding style. We're not gonna go very deep into S1s in this current video. We're gonna start with the MAs. Now, we're super excited about the HAs, the high aspect, the second generation of it. You may hear about that. That's really a set that's for intermediate to advanced riders. The MA, the mid aspect, is the one that's right for people you're making that step. So let's talk about what it means to be beginner to intermediate. Behind the boat, you're able to drop the rope, you're able to turn, you can pump a little ways, but maybe not all that ways. You can do a couple wave transfers, but not always successful. The MA gives you stability and the ability to pump at a little bit lower pace so that it's enjoyable. So I'm gonna pull up some of the different MAs. Is that cool, John?
Hey, let's do it.
Okay, so we'll start here on the biggest side of it. Now the biggest is the MA 1750. This one, it's pretty big. When we tested it, we do not put many people into the 1750 because it is big, and as these wings has kind of the mid aspect size to it, not just size, but shape to it. You can see kind of it goes up at those ends. The 1750, this is for your big boys. You're really gonna have to be somebody who's tracking about 225 and over for this one. Now, behind the boat, absolutely. For wing foiling, sometimes you'll use this for super light winds if you're getting going. And to talk about what it means to be a beginner to intermediate wing foiler, you're riding consistently up on foil, you're making maybe 25% of your jibes, and you want a little bit longer stability. The 1750 might be right for you. The 1750 tends to track, and when we say track, you have to carve it into the turn and out of it, and this one we find typically this is a little too big. The next one down is the 1475. They all look like that one, so I'm not gonna pull them all out. The 1475 is the bread and butter. The 1475 is gonna be your mid-range, and so you want to actually have, like, let's say you want a wing foil, and it's blowing 12 to 15 miles an hour, and you want a mid-range, this is a good one. Let's say you get behind the boat and you're not quite pumping and you're a little bit heavier, you're kind of between 190 up to about 235. This is gonna be a good one behind the boat. Now prone, which means surfing, when you're proning, probably not gonna use this one.
You could. These are good for people that are heavier riders.
Yeah.
And it just gives them some dependability. It's all kind of based on weight, just when that foil is gonna fly.
Yeah.
The bigger foils, they work well. I mean, especially if you're using a foil drive and to be able to get up on foil with that motor. So
foil drive, great point. But still, with the 1475, I probably wouldn't go above shoulder to head high.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of your little bit smaller waves for that. The next one down is really what I think the sweet spot is in this MA lineup. For most riders, this MA 1225 is going to be fantastic. If you're kind of in that point where you're beginning to be able to pump and you're carving and you're having a good time, this MA 1225 behind the boat is going to be good on the first wave. It's going to be good on the second wave. It's going to give you nice range. It's more stable than the HAs. If you're in the ocean, you can probably take this to head high, maybe a foot above head, and really enjoy this. And what it means when you have a little bit more stability, it gives you more time. So when you do that pop and you're riding down the wave face and you're beginning to exit, it just gives you a little bit more time. We like this 1225 coupled with the V200 tail. A lot of times with that V200 tail with the 1225, we're gonna go blue shim. Always best to go without shim. We're gonna do another video, so please subscribe, like our channel, stick around so we can tell you other stuff. But in the other one, we're gonna talk tails. And one of the things with this one, that V200 really brings it to life. This was our #1 recommendation for intermediate riders before the new HAs come out. So this MA25, if you're looking at an MA quiver that sounds good and you're anywhere from 160 up to about 200 pounds, this is gonna be a great one it's good for winging. I've winged this exact wing down at La Ventana several times. I had a blast on it. It's good on Lake Washington. I've also had this out in Maui in good sized waves. So this is a really good one. Now, for some of the smaller people out there or a little bit bigger winds, you'll go from the MA1225 down to the MA1000. Now the MA1000 behind the boat for us, we weigh about 180 pounds, is a little small. You know, you certainly can use it on the first wave. You certainly can use it on the second wave. But when you go to pump and move around, this MA1000 is a little undersized. When you're doing prone foil, this is great. The MA1000 instead of the MA1225, you definitely want this wave to be head high or a little bit above for this one.
The smaller foils, they're typically gonna turn better. You have less chance of breaching the wings, very maneuverable. One thing I like about the MAs, I've ridden this foil quite a bit actually in prone. The MAs, they're slower than the high aspect wings, but sometimes that's a good thing. So like your style of riding is you wanna be in the pocket, you don't wanna like overshoot the sweet spot of the wave.
Yeah.
These MAs work really good on that wave for maneuvers. So
yeah, and so with your foil driving, foil drive, many of you probably know about it. It's a supplemental engine, essentially torpedo style that you put onto your prone setup, and it's battery powered. You squeeze it like an e-foil, but that helps you get going into waves. Have you done much foil drive on the MAs?
I have. They work well.
What's your sweet spot?
You know, well, the 1225 for my weight's kind of just a good all-around daily driver.
Yeah.
I have foiled that. You're gonna be faster, like on the foil drive, but with the foil drive as well, like the foil, you got that battery. So I find that there's a point where it's kind of diminishing returns because the motor's working so hard to stay on foil on the foil drive.
Go a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Right. And then we had a really interesting debate in terms of towing. The MA625 versus the HA680. Which one was faster and better for towing? And it turned out, wasn't the feedback that the 625 was a little bit faster than the 680?
I think so.
Yeah. We didn't really feel that. You know, we like and we'll talk about towing, but if you were gonna tow foil on an MA, which MA would you choose? Probably 625.
625 works extremely well. The thing with the MAs is they're very, very predictable. And so bringing it in and out of a turn is very smooth and very solid. They'll hold really well at high speed. So you don't get like weird kind of cavitation. That can kind of happen on some of the foils, especially tow foiling. Yeah, the MAs are just super reliable, especially in big surf.
Yeah, don't feel like on the MAs you have to go straight to the HAs. If you're an intermediate rider, this is gonna be great for you. Now we're gonna switch gears here, and we're gonna go to the HA V2. Now this one, top to bottom, there's been a couple other companies that have come out with foils that have pretty good ones. But typically they had like one good one, and the rest around them were kind of I'm not gonna name any names. On this, it's top to bottom fantastic. This starts out with the 1180. Now, the HA 1180, we don't sell a ton of this. The use for this that I think would be the best isn't so much behind the boat. It would be for light wind wing foiling for intermediate to advanced. My go-to on Lake Washington that has up and down winds and you never know what's gonna happen and there's gonna be big lulls in them is the HA 1080. So for me at 180 pounds, and what I use this for is we have gust patterns and there'll be lulls and I'm looking at them. I like the glide of the 1080 to take me there. It performs really well. All these HAs can go up to high speeds. And so the 1080 for me, I think this is fantastic for wing foiling. Now behind the boat, we're not going to use either one of these two.
You can. I mean,
you can, but
super dependable and
yeah,
cruisers.
Yeah, I think if you're going from the MA to the HA behind the boat, odds are you're going to want something that's more responsive than the 1080 behind the boat. If you're a little bit bigger guy, you might like the 1080. There's also a 980 that's in there, but I like this. I will take this down to La Ventana and use it on lighter wind days. I use it on Lake Washington all the time. I would not use it at the gorge. At the gorge, you have the river going a direction, so it changes everything. You size down. And so the 1080 at the gorge, I have used it. It was really fun, but this is more of an anomaly down at the gorge. This is more what I use like Washington, La Ventana. Has the speed to chase down waves. All the HAs do. And so the 1080 has the speed. I can chase down those waves, no problem. But when I can, I like to go a little bit smaller. So for wing foil, 1080 if you're about our size, 1180 if you're a little bit bigger. You're gonna like both of them. They're super responsive.
Tim, there's a couple things we didn't mention.
What's that?
Downwind. These foils, they super low stall speed.
Yeah, it's true.
And so they'll stay in the air. And when you pump, you don't have to work as hard. So downwind, or if you want to be that guy in the lineup, and what I refer to as that guy is that guy that's prone foiling.
Yeah, who's just gonna whoosh.
Catches one wave and then we'll pump for 30 minutes.
That's true.
Just
That's
linking
true.
the waves.
Yeah.
So
if you want to, if you want to,
1080 is great for that. If you really don't want to work too hard when you're pumping around, these foils are great.
Yeah. So you can prone, you can be that guy in the 1080. Now, the number one seller, the one that we promote the most for riders who are ready for it, and this is across wing foil, prone, wake. If you're only going to have one and you're ready for it. So you're intermediate advanced. What does that mean? It means behind the boat, you're pumping 50 yards, no problem. You're going from wave 1 to wave 2, and you're going 2 to 2, 2 to 3, and you're moving around. This is permission to move about the country. This is great for stealing waves when you're wake foiling. Prone, it comes up smoothly. There's plenty of stability, but it still turns nicely. It pumps nice, so you can go and do a reconnect. This 880 on a wing foil is super responsive. I use this down at the gorge on mid to lighter wind days, because again, the river's going one way, so you're gonna size down a little bit at the gorge. But the 880 is something that is really good for wing foil, for prone, for wake.
This size, for me, like kind of like the 1225. There's certain foil sizes where they're just kind of quiver killers. So meaning you can use this variety of applications. It's always dependable. And it has a very good range from your small little waves to your larger. Yeah,
and I think if you're somebody who's out there on the older Armstrong gear, and so if you're on like a HSV2 1550 or a 1250, you just want to be a rider who is ready for it. Like if you stay with that gear as long as you're happy with it, but if you're ready to go a little bit faster, to chase those waves down a little bit more, the high end on these things is very quick. We will tow with the 880, and we're doing that on 10-foot faces. This foil will go 20, 25 miles an hour comfortably, without an issue. And most of the HAs will do it. And so this just gives you a ton of range. Now, down from this, there is the 780. Now, a lot of guys will build their quiver 1080, 880, 680, or they'll go 1180, 980, 780. Now, the 780 we think could be a really good tow foil. Behind the boat, this is going to be fun. A friend of ours this is their go-to behind the boat, he weighs a little less than us. So he's about 160 pounds, 155 pounds. And so for him, what we get out of the 880, he gets out of the 780. Again, this is intermediate to advanced rider for wake foil. Same for prone, wing, tow. This is going to be a great tow wing, anywhere from, chest up to a couple feet above head.
I love the HAs. And so if you're riding in a variety of conditions, things like that, I like having one of each size. And I can always find a use for it. Foil drive to tow to prone.
Yeah, and there really isn't that much overlap. I know for what I personally ride, I'm a 1080, 880, 680, and then we have a 480, and that really works well. This 680, here is, this is the Armstrong foil of the gorge. When it is blowing, because again, you have the current heading out west, and you have the westerlies pushing the other way, you know, and so that current gives you a little extra lift. This 680 is one of the ones that everybody wants. Down at La Ventana, where you consistently have wind and nice waves, 680. You know, this is not something I'm gonna wing foil on Lake Washington, hardly ever, if ever. And so if you're dealing on a lake where you have inconsistent winds and you weigh about 180 pounds, the 680 is not for you. Now, if this is your wife and she has come, or you're a super slight fella, you know, and you're around 120, 130 pounds, this 680 will be a fantastic wing foil for you everywhere. Now, behind the boat, this thing's a hoot. It is really fun. Wave 1, you're gonna shred it. Wave 2, you're gonna have a lot of fun. If you go to pump from boat to boat, or you go for long pumps, it's gonna be difficult for you. You're gonna have to stay very high. It's pretty technical. You know, you're just gonna have to be really focused on what it is that you're doing more than you probably would like. And so unless you're a smaller person, this is probably not the one for behind the boat. It's great for wing. What do you think for prone?
It rides insane, but like for my weight, you just have to be so precise and on it when you're pumping. So if you're sizing down, that's kind of the thing. It just becomes so much more critical. I like having a little more cushion so I can guarantee the wave reconnects. You can do it on this, you just have to work hard.
Well, that's,
so
you see shape. Like Oscar, for those of you who don't know Oscar, he's an amazing pumper. The guy's a great rider. He also weighs about 140 pounds. You know, he's a small guy. Cash, you know, who's amazing, what, 150?
Yeah.
Probably. You know, I'm guessing, you know, like we're at the circus. You know, I'm sure Cash will get back to us. Dude, I'm like 165. Like, yeah, they're smaller guys. So if you're smaller, the 680 is going to be great. Now, let's talk about tow. Towing on the 680, what do you think?
The 680 is one of my all-time favorites for towing. Yeah. It works well. You can pump through to the different sections. You can outrun big whitewater on it. And the range that it has from head high, shoulder high to bigger, it works extraordinarily well.
Yeah, so snappy, enjoyable. This is a pure winner. If you're inconsistent, if you're in Maui and you have trade winds and you know you're gonna have good winds on a regular basis, great. If you're on up and down conditions, and that's for wing foil. If you're in up and down conditions on a lake, not the one for you. Now, when we go from the 680, they came out with this 480. This 480, remember we were towing out there at Pier 1 and we see this guy just shredding the faces and having a great time. Well, that guy was Cash Berzola. I can't even call him a kid anymore. He's like a teenager. He's like, you know, so he's a young man, I think we would call him. And the guy shreds. He was ripping on the 480 just before it came out. This foil is, at least for us, at 180 pounds, we need a big wave.
It can get a little challenging with longer masts in choppy conditions because these foils are very responsive. And so you just have to be on it. The thing with towing this foil though too is you're moving fast. To have it flying where you need it, behind the jet ski, it's 17 miles an hour. So it carries so much speed, but it works great.
And that's, you're going 17 before you get on the wave phase.
Yeah.
So this is going to be your big wave, and so for, you know, not that many of you are going to be towing into super big waves. This is not something you're going to use behind the boat. You can rip it probably on first wave and have a good time, but unless you're a pretty slight person, you're going to be working so hard when it comes to pumping. Again, for prone, you know, if you're going to be paddling into waves, maybe you're a smaller guy, or, you know, maybe you're getting more than 30, 40 days a year, and so you want something to really push it. You know, that's where the 480. But on the low end, you know, this is going to be your big wave tow in. It's going to be faster than the 680. It's going to be faster than the MA625. And so if you're ready for it, this thing's going to take you there. I know this video is a little long. Sorry about that. But we wanted to go through the whole lineup. We've ridden all these foils. If you have any questions, please let us know. Drop us a note. Give us a call. Email us. And we'll put together what is the best package for you in terms of the front foil. So again, this is your front foil review with a deep dive into HAs, second generation HAs, the MAs, HA is high aspect, MAs, which is mid aspect. And just know with the S1s, it's predominantly to your weight. But if you want to talk to us about what type of boat you're behind, what type of wing foiling conditions you're going to be in, what type of board you need for behind the boat, or the conditions for wing foil, just reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you anytime. Johnny, anything you want to add?
Hey, great foils.
Great foils. All right, thanks so much. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Drop some messages down there. Give us a like. And we really hope to see you out there playing.
So,
you.